I'm sports psychologist Dr. Andrew Jacobs, and I'm the host of the Sports Psychology Hour that airs every Sunday morning from 7 to 8 a.m. in Kansas City on 810WHB.com. It's been on the radio for 33 years. It's a sports psychology radio show, and our shows are podcasted everywhere. And in addition to the show, we've launched the Sports Psychology Hour on my website under the podcast, where you can hear episodes about close to, I guess, about 10 years of podcasts on there. It's winnersunlimited.com. Just click on the podcast tab. I'm in my 43rd year of work as a sports psychologist. Had the privilege to work with everybody from the Olympic team, pro teams, college teams, high school teams, youth sports teams. I've also co-written this book called Just Let Them Play, guiding parents, coaches, and athletes through youth sports. And we've been doing a whole new series of interviews on coaches and athletes. And tonight we're fortunate to be talking to Christian Scanlon. Christian, thanks for joining the Sports Psychology Hour. Looking forward to talking to you.
Thank you for having me. It means a lot. Can't wait.
So you're a college baseball player. Tell everybody about where you go. Tell us about baseball. How'd you get into it? How'd you end up in college playing?
So right now I'm at Merrimack College, a small Division I program in northern Massachusetts. I started playing baseball, when I was first able to walk, I guess, when I was 3, 4 years old. My dad got me playing t-ball. It was great. And yeah, he always tells me stories about how like he was figuring out whether I was going to be righty or lefty and how much joy that brought him and stuff. But I used to play little league, travel ball, all the usual stuff when you do what you do when you're a young kid. I really started taking baseball seriously when I was maybe about a junior in high school. I was fortunate enough to be able to get in contact with a coach from Fairfield, Connecticut, coach from the clubhouse. That's what that travel team was called, and they were able to really get me some great exposure to play baseball at the next level. That along with attending Hampton Hall Country Day School in Hampton, Connecticut, that was a huge step in my process as well. Just having those resources was huge for me getting to the next level. And recruiting wise, my recruiting process happened for college during COVID, so it definitely put an interesting touch on that. And obviously, a pretty stressful time in your life to begin with.
How was it? How was that for you?
It
Because
was
COVID's affected everybody who plays sports in so many different ways, and obviously it took away a lot of experiences and things that a lot of young people your age could have had. So what was that like for you dealing with COVID as a high school athlete?
Well, I'll say I was very fortunate in my situation because when COVID hit, it was the second semester of my junior year, and Hammond Hall gave me an opportunity to reclassify and repeat my junior year, and so I was able to come the second semester of my senior year. I was able to experience senior prom, a full baseball season, all that. So I was very very blessed in that regard. But in terms of recruiting, it was very interesting because the NCAA just made it created a dead period where college coaches literally could not have contact with any athletes. The only way they could recruit was by maybe just seeing video online and things like that. But in my situation where my name wasn't really out there, I didn't really have a big name. It was very difficult because I couldn't have any contact with these coaches, and I was my junior year. My time was just ticking away, going to the end of high school. So it definitely added an extra stressor, but and I don't think I wasn't mature enough at that time to understand that hey, I just gotta focus on developing and getting better and what's within my control at that time. I definitely let it eat away at me and stress me out. And it definitely brought a lot of anxiety into my life at that time. But I will say that that those difficulties that I went through at that time in my life it definitely built me into the player and the person I am today. I look back and I'm definitely grateful for the anxieties that I went through during that time. And as you can see, I mean, it definitely worked out. I was fortunate enough to find a great school, and I'm in a great situation now. So it all did work out.
You're talking about anxieties. What were those like? What kind of anxiety and stressors were you dealing with?
It was just like I think I just placed expectations on myself, and I compared myself a lot to kids who were achieving like the dreams and goals that I was, like kids who were, getting their commitments, getting their offers to good Division I programs, kids who were having a lot of success early in their high school careers, things that I really didn't wasn't really having a taste of yet. And it was a thing where I would see because obviously being at the clubhouse, I was surrounded by Division I commit after Division I commit, and a bunch of kids who were going to Duke, Charleston, Boston College, a bunch of huge programs, and I was just a high school player with very little
And how,
college
how
interests.
did that make you feel then, being around all those guys?
I mean, I will say in one regard, it it asked me to raise my game and raise my level of competition, but at the same time, it put a lot of thoughts in my head like, hey, you're not good enough. Like you're not doing enough. You know? And it would kind of just eat at me throughout the day. Like I would just be sitting in class, and I just a feeling would come over me like, oh, I gotta do all this work. I gotta get recruited. I gotta get committed. I have to like be good enough to reach out to these coaches. Like this feeling would kind of just eat away at me. I didn't really have the perspective that to understand that hey, you need to worry about this. Really, what you need to worry about is your development. What's in your control. It's not within your control that there's an NCAA dead period. There's not. It's not within your control that like so and so committed to whatever school. That doesn't. That's all meaningless. What matters is my ability to take initiative and take ownership of my career. But in that at that time in my life, it was tough. It would just kind of eat away at me and just pop into my head every once in a while and put me in a bad mood. To be honest.
So how'd you get through it then?
I mean, huge piece for me was understanding that well, I guess at that point in my life, I kind of just threw myself in the fire and I kind of just lived in it and it stunk. I think like I've never really had depression, anxiety issues at any other time in my life except for that point in my life where I really definitely felt like there were days where I would just like lay in bed and I'd just be like, oh, it just like I didn't even want to get up out of bed because I was just so like anxious and nervous about what I had to do and what I was expecting of myself. But then I had a great conversation with one of my buddies who actually doesn't even play baseball. He just I guess he was just a regular student at my school, and he was like, dude, like at late when it's like if you go to practice and you do everything you got to do there, you do yourself no good by worrying at night when like you've already done what you could that day. You do yourself no good by worrying. You just hurt yourself. But if you go out there day by day and just give it everything you got, then how much more can you ask of yourself? And that really turned it around.
When we first started talking this evening, you mentioned the word expectations, and that's a big word. It's a long word, just in terms of number of letters in it, but it's a big word in terms of what it means. I think for a lot of young athletes, you know, what are you expected to do? What are the expectations you place on yourself? What are the expectations from others on you? What were some of those expectations that you had, and what did you feel that the expectations that coaches and friends, parent people had on you in terms of, well, gosh, how could you be, or where are you going to go with this?
I guess, and I don't recommend this mentality at all, but I really and I think this was definitely a part of me being a young 17-year-old kid is like I wanted myself to play divisional baseball, and that was the standard I set for myself, and that standard I don't think it was more of just I thought it would give me a sense of validation, something that I didn't really have at that point in my life, and I felt like having that like name tag on my name would give me some sort of validation for others. But like, and that's the expectation I placed on myself was like, okay, I want to play Division One baseball. I want to go to Division One school and play. Like that was what I wanted, and I guess that was my expectation. And along with that, came all that anxiety and those nerves that I put myself through.
Well, because you and thousands of other young men had that same dream.
Yeah,
I
100%.
mean, all kinds of guys want to go play collegiate baseball. So, what do you think gave you the opportunity and the success that you've had in terms of getting to college and actually playing?
Well, I after I committed to Merrimack and I kind of got that monkey off my back, that the want to like have that sort of validation from others didn't really go away until maybe midway after my freshman year of college. Honestly, like for me, like it actually grew when I committed to college, where I was like, okay, now I have this name on my back. Now I have to perform. And when I didn't perform, whether I was high school or my freshman year, which was very difficult for me, like when I didn't perform, I was I was I was way down low. It was everything to me. And when the game of baseball is everything to you, and you're not doing well, it stinks, and your entire life is a mess.
Right.
But the understanding that, and for me, I I've always been a Christian. I've always gone to church, but really diving deep into those relationships and understanding that life isn't just about baseball, but in fact, it's like what I do on a daily basis. Actually, and it's an interesting way to say this, but like it's a lot less significant than I think it is. You understand that, hey, I have an 0 for 4 game. That's not even close to the end of the world. But I'm blessed to be able to play the game in the first place. Really flipping my mindset into understanding that, hey, if I go 0 for 4, so be it. Did I give it my best shot? Good. Then that is what it is. Or understanding that, hey, if I have a bad game, I get to go play tomorrow. I have a new opportunity, a new game, new day to play tomorrow. And understanding that,
Excuse me, you've got a great attitude, Christian, with
oh,
that, because I've
thank you.
worked with so many people. Well, you're welcome. So many people, and they put these expectations and pressures on themselves. I just had a father call me today about his collegiate son who's playing baseball, who beats himself up if he goes 3 for 4 because he didn't go 4 for 4. And
Oh,
the expectations and pressures that apparently this young man's got on him are really strong. And I'm sure you've seen that with teammates before.
100%. Yeah, there's a bunch of guys that alongside me are like, they'll have a 3 game, they'll be hitting 360 on the year with 10 home runs, and they'll be frustrated that like, or they'll be beating themselves up that they rolled over a ground ball, then they didn't get 4 hits. But like the reality is that, at least in my own experience, I've played best when I show up to the field and I tell myself, hey, if I if I execute these 3 things today that are in my control, usually it's if I make sure I take my A swing, if I go after every play with effort, and I trust myself every time. If I do that throughout the entire game and every one of my opportunities, then if the game's a success, and I did what I could, versus looking at it as, oh, if I go 0 for 4, then it's a failure, or if I go 4 for 4, then it's a success. But a lot of the time, that stuff is out of your control. And I think when you place your self worth and your expectations on things that are out of your control, more often than not, you're going to be left unhappy.
You mentioned the word effort, and as I said at the top of the show, I'm in my 43rd year of work as a sports psychologist. I work with every level. I have one of the Kansas. I'm in Kansas City, so obviously I'm a Chiefs fan. I've been going to Chiefs games since the first game they ever played in 1963, and
Yeah.
I've been at the last 3 Super Bowls that we've won. I went to the very first Super Bowl with my father, and
Oh, really? Okay.
my oldest son came to these 3 with me. That I've been fortunate enough to work with several Chiefs players, and one of the stars of the team gave me one of his Super Bowl jerseys, and on it
No way.
he wrote the letters FOE, which is one of our themes, stands for focus on effort. And I always talk about focus on effort versus focus on results. And I think you've just been validating that in terms of how you've been describing yourself, because when you think about stats and numbers, which baseball now is so overloaded with every statistic, how fast does the ball come off your bat when you hit it, and what's
Yeah.
the speed of a pitch off the pitcher's hand, and how fast does an infielder throw the ball to first. I mean, there's so many stats now that are so result oriented. I think what gets us there? Well, it's effort and execution.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, Christian, you've got a good perspective with that, because I think and that's where the word balance comes in. How do you balance things out? And for me, so much of baseball is so much about results and numbers, but those are the results of the effort and execution you put into it. And I worked with
Exactly.
the Kansas City Royals team psychologist, first one back in 1990, and then again from 2008, 2011. And I've talked to many all stars, and one of the big things we've always worked on is execution and effort. And like, for example, one of the clients I worked with for 20 years, Tom Flash Gordon, who pitched, his sons Tavares and Nick both play baseball now, and Tom had the major league record 54 saves in a row. And our whole focus was TNP, the next pitch, the next pitch, the next pitch. He didn't focus on results; he just focused on his effort, and that resulted in part why he got 54 saves in a row. He didn't get 55 because he blew out his elbow and had that Tommy John surgery, but the whole thing, that was a major league record for a number of years until it was broken by Eric
Wow.
Gagne. But the fact is, his focus was on what was in front of him, and it sounds like that's the perspective you have.
Yeah. Well, a big thing I learned is, we had a great year in Merrimack, and we were able to make the playoffs for the first time at the Division One level this year. And in the playoffs, my understanding was that your stats are no longer being counted. Like, you're past the regular season, and now you're just playing to win, essentially. And so and I did my best to play this way during the regular season, but obviously it's a little more difficult. But during the playoffs, it was just first at bat happened, didn't go my way, fine, doesn't matter. That already happened. All that matters is what I do next, because if I do something good, that's all that's going to matter, right? And
Right.
and it's all about how we can move on and how we can just help the team win in every opportunity. And so that's how I played. It was like if I punch out my first at bat, okay, fine.
So
I'm
what?
going to get another at bat. And how well can I do in this next at bat? How well can I help my team? That's the only one that matters to me. And it turned out that it actually turned out that they did count towards our stats. Those at bats did count. But like in my head, it was like that doesn't even like this last at bat I just struck out. It doesn't even matter because next at bat I'm just going up there, get my swing off, and try to help my team. That's all that matters. And I said that to a few of my teammates as well, a couple of the younger guys, so we have some talented younger players. And he was eating himself up about like not getting a runner in. And I told him, dude, listen, hey, it happened already. It doesn't matter anymore. All that matters is your ability to go out there and make a play next day. That's all that matters. Because
I'm
otherwise, go ahead.
no, I was going to say one of the big things I talk about all the time is visualization and mental preparation and taking the time to visualize yourself. I have relaxation visualization exercise on my website for pitching and hitting in baseball specifically. And I work through people with the whole visualization process. When I started talking about visualization, learning about it in grad school back in the late 70s, most people in sports didn't really know the term. A lot of people were doing it, but didn't realize what it was called. And now I see it talked about all the time. Do you use visualization in terms of your pre-game preparation and coming up to bat?
I say a big key for me in terms of that is my ability to kind of understand like what it feels like. Like when I'm before the game, I'm kind of just like calming myself down, kind of getting myself into like that flow state and get myself ready to perform. A big thing for me is kind of just imagining what it looks like to be in that focused state up the plate and being able to understand, okay, like the kind of feeling that I guess like that feel you can't really describe it, but that feeling of like that flush feeling when you catch a ball perfect and it kind of just flies off your bat, kind of
Mhm.
like that feeling that you get in your hands. That's a big thing that I like to feel, especially in the on deck circle, where I'm taking my dry swings and I'm ready to go. And I really like as the pitch is delivered, I like imagine that feeling like bang, ball just popping off the bat. That's a huge one for me.
So before we wrap things up tonight, I want to ask you three definitions. See what you say. First one, what's your definition of winning?
Winning in life or just a general definition, I guess.
However you want to define it.
My definition of winning in life is I'd say that a person who's winning in life is a person who's set free from all the all the burdens and all the burdens that they can put that life can place on them. They're set free from they're set free from the results of baseball in my case. They're set free from whether a relationship with a person works out or not. They're set free from all the things that could go good or bad. They're in a place in their life where a person who's winning is in a place where that stuff doesn't throw them off because they're so solid. They have such a solid foundation of who they are as a person.
I think that's great. Now, the opposite, losing. How would you define losing? Are you there? Did we lose you? Well, I think we froze for some reason. Looks like the screen is frozen, Christian. I guess you can't hear me. Let's try one more time. Yeah, well, we lost him. All right. Well, this has been a fascinating interview. This is Christian Scanlon, college baseball player, wonderful young man. And I'm going to tell you something. Just met him tonight, but he's going to make something of himself because his perspective and his attitude is tremendous. And I want to wish him the best of luck. Somehow we've lost him here. But, if you liked our interviews, as always, visit my website, winnersunlimited.com. Okay, there he is. We got your back.
Go back. I think I lost the internet connection or something like that.
Okay. All right. Let's go back. Definition of losing. How would you define that?
Definition of losing would be like right on the flip side, like someone who's bound by the results of everything that happens in their life. When say they're a baseball player, when things are going good, they're riding high. But when things are going bad, they're at the lowest lows. They just ride the wave of life in general. And someone who's not able to be like the same person, day in and day out, and be consistent with who they are. Uh, someone who just rides the wave completely and is bound by things that are out of their control.
All right. The last word is self-confidence. How would you define, or two words? So how would you define self-confidence?
Self-confidence. Self-confidence is knowing that whether things work out the way you want to or not, that you've already won, and that your life is already everything that it's going to be because like I keep saying, you don't worry about whether things are good or bad. You don't worry about whether you're going to be the player of the year or not. You don't worry about whether you're going to have a good game today or not, because you're already in a place in your life and with yourself where you're not relying on others' opinions, you're not relying on validation from the game of baseball, you're not relying on any of that, because you know that you're bigger than that, and life is more meaningful than just a game or just life in general. Life is bigger than that.
Well, and that goes to basically what I was saying about effort versus results, focusing on the effort. Well, Christian, it's been wonderful talking to you tonight. You've got a great perspective. I can tell you're very successful at what you do as a young man, as a baseball player, but as well as a student in person. So if people like to get a hold of you, if they'd like to reach you, how can they get in touch with you?
If they'd like to reach me, I guess I'm on Instagram. You could feel free to send me a message. The same thing as Twitter. My Instagram handle is at Christian Scanlon, ChristianScanlon with an underscore at the end. And then on Twitter, I'm at C Scanlon 2022.
Well,
And
thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight. It's been a great interview, and you've already been successful here, and I can tell you're going to get a lot more successful with the way you approach things. So good luck to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on.
So if you've liked this conversation, as always, visit my website, winnersunlimited.com, click on the podcast, and listen to episodes of the show like tonight. You can get a hold of me as well. That's winnersunlimited.com. Send me an email at drj@winnersunlimited.com if you'd like to get in touch with me. Have a great week. Stay safe.
Absolutely. Thank you.